addition to what Mr. Schaefer said, that the Obergefell decision did not discuss this other understanding of marriage, and thus cannot be precedent for this bill. It dealing only with civil marriages by enacted law and policy, which this bill is not. I would like to suggest that there are also affirmative reasons for the constitutionality of this bill, in addition to those created simply by distinguishing this bill from Obergefell. First of all, if you were listening to testimony today on the Hill, you would have heard John Cornyn and others speak about Mike Lee, the Ninth Amendment, which has never been construed by the Supreme Court in relation to any 14th Amendment right, which was the principal purpose of Mr. Schaefer's brief on behalf of many of you. This bill relies on that, stating that the right of men and women recognized at the common law to marry cannot be abridged or disparaged by the enumeration of other rights. And therefore, as Mr. Schaefer noted, you are free under the 10th Amendment to still acknowledge that. This bill does not repeal the license statutes or affect anyone who currently can get a license. Secondly, the United States Supreme Court said in Meister versus Moore, a case that it ignored, that the right of a husband and wife is a common law right to marry, and in general state statutes should not be construed as creating that right. Lastly, the United States Supreme Court, in a decision of long-standing precedential value, studied by every law student, Erie Railroad versus Tompkins, said there is no federal common law, so the United States Supreme Court cannot create federal common law marriage, and held that it was unconstitutional, quote, for the court to say what the substantive common law of the state is. They simply reiterated what the court said 100 years earlier in Wheaton and Donaldson versus Peters and Griggs. So there are three arguments affirmatively in support of this bill, in addition to drawing the distinction that Mr. Schaefer made. And I close with this quote from Justice Scalia. When the majority held that Congress could not define marriage for the purposes of federal law, he said this, Lord, an opinion with such scattershot rationales as this one can be distinguished in many ways and deserves to be. State and lower federal courts should take the court at its word and distinguish away. Thank you, members of the